Hi, everybody, and a very pleasant good evening to you wherever you may be. This is Comfortably Zone Radio, and it's time for Dodgers Baseball, a tale of two cities, from Brooklyn to Los Angeles. I'm your host, Peter Trunk, and my co-hosts are Linda Wilson and Bernie Rose. Hello, Linda Wilson.
Hello. How's it going?
And how are you?
Great.
There you go. Bernie, how's it going?
Everything's coming up good. How are you?
Everything's
We're
coming up
ready to
good.
roll.
Okay. I'm doing okay. All right. They put off the surgery to my tooth, so I'm good for tonight.
All right.
Before we get into the Los Angeles part of the show, I would like, as usual, to open up with some Brooklyn stuff. And I want to talk about a year that I've never heard anyone really discuss, either over the airwaves or in a book or online or on any of those wonderful Dodger nostalgia sites or anything. And that's 1937, a bit before my time, but I've read a bunch about that year. And there are two or three things that I thought were very interesting that happened in 1937. The first of which, this is really strange, and our youngster Linda is not going to believe this unless she has read about it. The team changed the team, the Dodgers, the Brooklyn Dodgers, changed their colors to green and white.
Yeah.
Oh, you knew about that?
Yes, I knew that.
Thank God, only 1 year. But 1937, their caps were green with a white D, and their uniforms in green lettering had Brooklyn stenciled across the chest, both home and away, in green.
Yeah.
And I don't know where they ever got the idea to do that, but thank God it passed very quickly. They went back to Dodger blue. They went back. Even their warm-up jackets were green. I mean, come on. Oh man.
Who was running the team? George Costanza?
I read somewhere that
I was just saying, who was running the team? George Costanza?
Oh.
You don't know the reference.
Very good. Very good. Even the
go
guys,
ahead.
even the people even the guys who worked, show you to your seats and stuff. All those guys with those jackets were green in 1937. That's amazing. That's
I wonder if
absolutely
there's any
amazing.
around still. That would be worth something.
Oh yeah, they're around. You look on eBay, and not only are they around, not only are some around, very few by the way, but they have the Mitchell and Ness redid them. So you can get a green Dodger cap, a green Dodger jacket.
Yeah, that's true. They
Dodger
do that stuff.
Uniform jersey. That was made like in the 90s, but it's retro.
Right.
Made out of wool and all that stuff. It's all wool. So it's pretty cool. But I don't know anybody who would ever want one. But anyway, 1937. Let's get back to 1937.
Let's get back into it.
The Dodgers, as we all know, won in 1916. They won in 1920. Then they went into the doldrums. The Dodgers became the Dappiest Boys. Everyone laughed about the Dodgers. They were the butt of everyone's jokes in vaudeville, all around town and stuff. And people just laughed at the Dodgers. 1937, they finished in sixth place in an 8-team league. They were 29 games under 500, and they finished 33 and a half games behind. Their leading home run hitter, Cookie Lavagetto, had 8 home runs. No pitcher on their pitching staff was over the 500 mark. They had 2 guys that were at 500, like 3-3 and 1-1. All the other pitchers were below 500. So this was the ending of the laughable years, because 2 short years later, in 39, the Dodgers finished third, and then in 1940 they finished second, And in 1941, they finished first. Never again to be the laughing stock of the National League. They were always a powerhouse. Even to this day, they're a powerhouse all these years later. But 1937 was strange, not only because they had green on their uniforms and their caps, but there were 11 papers in New York City in 1937. And one of the newspapers, the World Telegram, had a guy who was a cartoonist in their sports section named Willard Mullin. And Willard Mullin, in 1937, first drew the famous Brooklyn bum. And for the next 20 years in Brooklyn, the bum would become the indelible symbol of the Brooklyn Dodgers baseball franchise. Now, can you imagine, here's a guy, he drew a bum, and the Dodgers loved it. They didn't shy away from it. They embraced it. They loved it. It became them. Willard Mullin went on to do the cover of almost all the Brooklyn Dodger yearbooks in Brooklyn. And if it was today, he would have trademarked that bum and he would have been a multi-millionaire. But I'm sure he made zero back then. But that was right. That's the provenance of the Brooklyn bum. And I thought that was very interesting, 1937. Also in 1937, the Brooklyn Dodgers band, not yet called the Sym-Phony. It began with a bunch of friends from Williamsburg, there's a section in Brooklyn, set out to have a picnic at Alley Pond Park in Queens. And when the weather turned bad, they called the picnic off. But as they were going home, the skies cleared, and they all decided, hey, let's go to Ebbets Field and see the Dodgers. And when they got there with their musical instruments, they were told at the gate, you cannot go inside with those instruments, can't go in. So they retreated, and they came up with a plan. One guy went in alone, bought a ticket and went in, and went up, of course without an instrument, went up a ramp, which was visible from the outside on the sidewalk, and then lowered some cord down to the street where the instruments were tied and hoisted up to that guy into the stands. The rest of the guys went in without an instrument, and when they all got inside, they started playing their instruments. And,
that's hilarious.
It's really funny. There was like 6 or 7 of them, and within a few years, the Dodgers actually embraced them, and they later became known as the Sym-Phony Band. I think Red Barber coined that, and the Dodgers actually sanctioned them, and they officially, and they became a part of the Ebbets Field experience. They eventually all got seats together in Section 8, Row A, numbers 1 through 7. They had a tuba, a snare drum, a bass drum, some trombones, trumpets, and they routinely played songs such as Three Blind Mice when the umpires would come onto the field. In those days, there were only 3 umpires. There were 2 for the bases, and there was 1 home plate umpire. When they came on the field, the Dodgers Sym-Phony Band would strike up Three Blind Mice. And if Linda's too young to know what that song is,
I remember
Three Blind Mice, Three Blind Mice. Okay, good. Anyway, they also used to play, like when an opposing player would fly out. Let's say Ralph Kiner flied out to left field. As he peeled off at first base to run back to the Pittsburgh dugout, the band would play da-dum, da-dum, da-da-da-dum, da-dum, 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 da-da-da-dum, da-dum, and they would wait for him to get back in the dugout. And when he sat down, the bass drum would just hit boom. And Kiner said many times in his interviews, he said, after I would make it out of that field, I would go to the water cooler, I would walk up and down. I would think the band wasn't looking at me. And then I would sit down, even if it was 5 minutes later, and boom, they would hit it right on the mark. They never forgot me. They never stopped looking at me, which I thought was really terrific. That is funny as hell. And anyway, those are my little stories from 1937 and Ebbets Field. And now I'm going to give way to my partners in crime here, and we're going to talk about an infield that the Dodgers had for many years. I will let one of them tell you when it started, when it ended, how long it lasted. But their names were Garvey, Lopes, Russell, and Say. And once again, ladies first, Linda Wilson. Go ahead.
Okay, well, they started playing together actually in the minor leagues, but the first time they took the field together as an infield unit was June 22nd, 1973. The second game of a doubleheader against the Reds at Dodger Stadium. And they stayed together for 8.5 years until after they won the 1981 World Series. And that's when the infield broke up. But they stayed together longer than any other infield in Major League history.
Wow.
Yep, they sure did.
You want to tell us about Mr. Garvey?
Yeah, I was going to say
Let's
even
start
longer.
at first base.
Okay. I was going to say they stayed together even longer than Tinker, Evers, and Champ.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, that was a line from one of the columnists, Jim Murray of the LA Times, when he paid tribute to this great infield. Okay. Yeah, Mr. Garvey, well, let's see. He started at third base. I think we know that for most of us know that. He was moved to first base later. But he was called up in 1969, played mostly as a pinch hitter, and then was put in at third base for a couple seasons until it wasn't working out because he didn't have the arm to throw accurately to first. Moved it over to first base, and at that point, he began to set a lot of offensive records. He became pretty much the lead power hitter of the team. In the 70s, the Dodgers were pretty stacked with a lot of power hitters, but Garvey was the first one, and they could make his name. He became the MVP of the National League in 1974 and went on to be the Iron Man of the National League, not missing a game for several years until after he left the Dodgers. Let's see. What else? I guess
he set the National League record for Iron Man.
1,207 consecutive games, which still stands as the National League record. It's just that not the Major League record. And then he went on to finish out his career with the Padres, to have a couple of pretty good years there before starting to tail off a little. Anyway, okay, so shall we move on on Garvey?
What happened?
Okay,
I think
so
her phone
moving
must
on.
have cut out.
No?
Oh, yeah, we're going to move on to Davy Lowe.
There you are.
Okay. Oh, okay. Oh, no. I'm here. Okay, sorry about that. Anyway.
Okay, Davy Lopes.
Davy Lopes, actually, hold on. I'm having a problem with my phone, but I think I'm here.
We can hear you.
Can you hear me? Okay, good. All right.
Put the phone a little closer to your mouth.
Yeah, I am.
Put the phone a little bit closer. There you go.
I know. I just don't know. Anyway, okay. Okay, well, he led the National League twice in stolen bases. He was the great Dodger leadoff hitter of the 70s. Won one Gold Glove. That was in 1978, and actually had one great power hitting year in 1979 when he had 28 home runs. He was just a stalwart leadoff hitter and a great second baseman for this unit, and he didn't start. He didn't begin starting until 1973, which was the first year that they all played together anyway. But Lopes eventually left after the 1981 World Series, was traded to the A's, and Steve Sachs came up and took over for him. He also played some seasons for the Cubs and the Astros, and had a brief managerial career with the Brewers, and coached recently with the Dodgers and is now with the Nationals. Great guy. These guys all stayed friends for many years, even though they said they didn't get along all the time when they were teammates, but they're proud of what they accomplished together as a unit.
Yeah, Davy Lopes, just as of note, he stole 38 consecutive bases at one point in 1975, and that was a 53-year-old record he broke. That was later broken by Vince Coleman in 1989. But still, and when he was done for more than 400 career stolen bases, he was third all time with a success rate of 83.01%. And only Tim Raines and Willie Wilson were better at the time. I don't know if that still stands or not, but it might. He was good. He was really good.
Yeah.
I mean, steals.
Is that it
anyway.
on Davey? Are we going to move over to shortstop now, or do we have more on Davey?
Let's move on over to shortstop. Bill Russell, who played his entire 18-year career with the Dodgers and was a three-time All-Star. The other three infielders all ended their careers with other teams, but Russell was there from beginning to end. He was the only one of the four that was drafted out of high school. The other three were drafted out of college in the 1968 draft. So Russell, having been coming up out of high school, actually made the majors first, and he got a lot of criticism for his fielding at shortstop. He moved around in the lineup and was eventually a great number two hitter following Lopes, but he had started out hitting lower in the lineup. And I believe it was Jerry Royce who said that he saw Bill Russell as a center fielder playing shortstop, which he did play at one time, center field.
Uh-huh.
But he essentially learned the shortstop position on the job, and that was Walter Olson's idea. And
well, his first 2 years he was in the outfield because, believe it or not, we're now joining eras because Maury Wills was still the starting shortstop when he came up.
Right.
Wow.
Yeah, that was because he had. I believe that was probably Will's last season when Russell first came up.
That wouldn't surprise me.
Yeah.
But
Coming in from center field to shortstop reminds me of Mickey Stanley, Detroit Tigers, 1968 World Series.
Yeah.
Mickey Stanley was a center fielder. Detroit had no shortstop for the World Series. Mickey Stanley became the shortstop of the World Series. And the Detroit Tigers, which is what Russell did. Russell came in from the outfield. Have any more on Russell?
Well, actually, backing
Sure.
up, now that you mentioned that, I did mean to say that also Davy Lopes had moved from center field to second base as well.
Uh-huh.
He was
Interesting.
Yeah, so you have a couple of converted outfielders there. And,
Wow.
Only Zach Wheat, played more games in a Dodger uniform than Bill Russell.
Wow.
And no L.A. Dodger played in more games than Billy Russell.
That's right.
Holy cow.
Yeah. So that says a lot. And,
it does.
Without a doubt. And he had almost made it to 2,000 hits, 1,926 hits. And he had a great 1978 World Series. Too bad they lost. He had 11 hits and hit 423, and also in the NLCS that year he hit 337. But they couldn't win that World Series. But yeah, he had a great World Series. Yeah, he actually is working right now with Major League Baseball in the Major League Baseball umpiring division. Is Bill Russell?
Really?
Yeah, at 68 years old. And he was there for both World Series in 81 and 88,
yes,
where the other guys were not.
Well, wait a minute. 1988.
Well, Garvey wasn't, that's for sure.
No,
I'm not sure about the other guys.
None of them were there in 1988.
I think Russell might have still been. He may not have played.
I'm pretty sure he retired in 86, but I better double check on that. But I'm pretty sure that's when he retired. I could be wrong. We'll find out. In any case,
I think he did. Then I saw something that said that, but he couldn't have been 2 times a champ. You're right. He retired.
Right.
Yeah, they were all gone by then.
Yeah, all of them.
But I was shocked to find out that Ron Say was a 6-time All-Star, because I remembered him being a good player, but 6 straight years he was an All-Star. Ron Say was.
Penguin.
Yeah.
Right.
And Lasorda did not give him that name. He got it in college. But he got a lot of credit for giving him that name. He might have even tried to take the credit if I know Tommy. But
Tom Lasorda would take credit for something he wasn't supposed to?
And Ron Say is in the Hall of Fame at Washington State University.
Yeah.
He had 2 years there. And pretty much he was overshadowed by Schmidt and Pete Rose at third base, because he had a nice little career. But obviously Schmidt was a Hall of Famer with some great years, and Rose, he didn't spend his whole career at third base, but he had some great years as well. Because Ron Say ended up having 1,863 hits he had. And he just missed having an 800 career OPS at 799. That's not bad.
Mm-hmm. No.
That is not bad.
Didn't he play with the Cubs, too?
I was just saying it. They traded him to the Cubs after the 82 season. And in 84, he led the Cubs in home runs and RBIs, and they won the Eastern Division.
Wow.
People would not remember that. And Ron Say had 25 homers and 97 RBIs.
Well, he played against Garvey in that NLCS, which was a first, because it was the first time one of them had played against the other, one of the infielders that played against the other in a championship series. And as we all know,
that's interesting. Yeah, I guess that sounds right.
And then Garvey, of course, put the Padres in the World Series with a great home run.
Oh, yeah, he had a great series. He won the MVP in the NLCS again, didn't he?
Yeah, I think he did.
Yeah. Well, Garvey and Say and Russell were all born in the same year, 48, I believe
48,
it was.
48, yeah.
And Lopes was just 3 years older. But Garvey's birthday's next month, so he's still not quite up to the other guy's age yet. But he'll be there soon enough. And me too, eventually. I only got 3 more years myself before I'm 68. But anyway, he played the most games at third base in Dodgers history, by the way.
Really?
Ron Say, yes. So these guys all established themselves pretty well, I would say.
Those teams with that infield, and not to forget the outfield and the catcher and the pitching staff, but those teams per se, they were all really good ball clubs. I mean, the 77, 78, 79, 80, 81, 82 Dodgers, those years in there, that pocket right there, they were a very, very good ball club. Very good.
Right. Absolutely. I forget who it was when I was kind of doing my research. It might have been, I forget who it was who said that the 77 team was really, they thought, the 77 or the 78, so was their strongest team, even though they couldn't seal the deal like the 81 season team did.
Yeah.
But
probably the 77 team, because that's the year that the four.
They had all the home runs?
Home runs, yeah. Garvey, Smith, and Baker, and Shea.
Right.
They all had 30 home runs, right?
It was an explosive offensive team. It was,
Yeah, Baker, Smith, and Shea and Garvey. And the odd thing was that Garvey ended up with more than all the other three, with 33. And he was not as good of a home run hitter for his career as Shea was, even though he had the better career.
Mm-hmm.
But Shea did hit more lifetime home runs. But Shea only hit 263. Garvey hit 296, was it? He ended up going under 300 for his career. But, you know, I thought Garvey was a really good hitter. It just didn't happen. He was a
really good hitter, Garvey.
Oh, without a doubt. I love that swing. He had a great swing.
Yeah, he did.
And oh yeah, no doubt. And then, you know, towards the last years with the Dodgers, he was popping more home runs.
Yeah.
And it's so funny how, you know, Dusty Baker, who had some good years and a lot of time with the Dodgers, he's managed like every team in baseball except the Dodgers. It's kind of funny.
Yep.
But maybe that's smart. He gets a lot of people criticize him in his managing. But
well, you see,
I don't know. He takes a lot of teams to the playoffs.
He takes a lot of.
He's one of those managers. This is my take on that. I'm glad you brought that up, even though it's not really on subject, but it's
that's right.
One in itself. Dusty Baker. Now, this is one man's opinion. I'm not saying that it's true. I'm saying this is my opinion. So there's a difference, of course. Dusty Baker is a great manager in the clubhouse, on the road, in the bus, on the train, on the plane, in the clubhouse, back at the hotel. I mean, they love the guy. The guy's funny. He's a real man's man and everything. But when you start with the X's and O's, he's in over his head, pal. He better have somebody smart sitting right next to him in that dugout, because he'll run out of pitchers, he'll run out of pinch hitters, he'll run out of people. He has no clue in what he's doing. And remember,
well, the Dodgers beat him in the playoffs this year.
This is only my opinion.
I've heard it from other people.
The players play their heart out for the guy because they love him. They think he's great, and he probably is. He's a great guy. But the X's and O's part of it, he's not exactly Joe Madden or Tony La Russa. He hardly even knows what he's doing half the time, chewing on that toothpick. He's a little strange with it. I remember his first All-Star game. When he managed his first All-Star game, he ran out of players in the seventh inning.
That's right.
He had nobody.
That's right.
He had nobody.
I don't even remember that.
He didn't have a bench coach next to him. He didn't have somebody sitting next to him going, "Whoa, Dusty, hold on. You can't do that. Hold it. Wait a minute. You're going to run out of this. You're going to run out of that." He ran out of players. He really, you know, I'm not saying don't get the wrong impression. I like him.
Well, a lot of people say it, but
very
because
successful.
he loses in the playoffs all the time. He makes the
very
playoffs
successful.
all the time.
Yeah, but he's overall a successful guy, and a lot of players love him to death. But as X and O's guys and X's and O's guys, as one of those kind of guys, he's not in the top 500 in my book. That's just me.
There you go.
You know, that's what I'm saying, and then that's probably why he never managed the Dodgers, because the Dodgers knew that.
Well, when Bill Russell
saying,
was named manager, and we didn't really touch on that a whole lot, because he didn't become the Dodgers manager. Only for really like 2.5. I don't even think he made 3 full seasons. Yeah. But when he became the manager, He was only the third Dodger manager in 43 years.
Yeah.
Right.
After Alston and Lasorda, right, exactly.
Exactly. So
that's very interesting. And then he only lasts 2.5 years. Imagine that. After the
and
guy
he had a
in
winning
front of him
percentage of
4 years.
.537. You know, I mean, it's not the greatest, but it's not terrible.
No.
Well,
no.
But
keep in mind that's when they were undergoing the transition and the team sale and all that. So
exactly, News Corp was taking over, and all the
Yeah.
changes were going to happen. Exactly, and that's when the whole thing happened, and Russell and Fred Clare got fired.
Right.
And that's another show for another day.
That's another show for another day, and we're going to wrap it up tonight. And I thank both of you, as usual. A strong showing from both of you. And I'll be talking with you on Messenger, and we'll be back next week. And thank you very much. Good night, and don't forget to vote.
Okay, already did. How do you like that? Got the early vote in on Friday. So go out and do it. Let's make it happen. Have a great night, everybody.
You too. See you next week.
Okay.